Imagine hurtling down a sheet of solid, injected ice at nearly 90 miles per hour, your body leaning at impossible, gravity-defying angles just millimeters away from unforgiving safety nets, knowing with absolute certainty that a single miscalculation of a fraction of an inch could result in catastrophic, life-altering injury. This is the daily, terrifying reality of elite downhill skiing, a brutal sport where the margin for error is practically non-existent and the physical toll is measured in broken bones, torn ligaments, and reconstructed joints. At the absolute pinnacle of this dangerous and beautiful discipline stood a woman who not only conquered the most treacherous, high-speed courses on the planet, but also completely redefined the very limits of human endurance, tactical intelligence, and athletic longevity. She transformed from a fiercely determined, small-town child in the snowy hills of Minnesota into a global cultural icon, shattering records that many experts believed would stand for eternity. Her journey is a masterclass in psychological resilience, a profound testament to the power of an unbreakable will, and the ultimate blueprint for what it means to live a life entirely without fear. Born Lindsey Caroline Kildow in the winter of 1984 in St. Paul, Minnesota, her introduction to the world of alpine sports was as natural and inevitable as breathing. Her father, an avid skier and former competitive racer himself, recognized her innate balance, spatial awareness, and sheer fearlessness when she was barely old enough to walk. He introduced her to the slopes of Buck Hill, a modest, incredibly steep, and notoriously icy local ski area that would become the ultimate crucible for her early athletic development. Unlike the glamorous, sun-drenched, perfectly groomed resorts of the European Alps, Buck Hill was a gritty, no-nonsense training ground where raw technique and mental courage were forged in freezing temperatures and harsh, unforgiving conditions. Her father served as her first coach, instilling in her a relentless, obsessive work ethic and a highly analytical tactical mindset that would later become her greatest assets on the world stage. By the time she was a young teenager, it was abundantly clear to everyone around her that she had completely outgrown the local hills and needed a much higher level of competition. The family made the monumental, financially straining decision to relocate to Vail, Colorado, the undisputed epicenter of American alpine skiing, to provide her with the elite coaching, advanced facilities, and fiercely competitive environment she desperately needed to reach the global stage. The transition to Vail marked the official beginning of her rapid ascent through the rigorous ranks of the United States ski team. She quickly separated herself from her peers, dominating junior national championships and catching the discerning eye of national team selectors who recognized a rare, generational talent. Her debut on the international stage was nothing short of spectacular and highly unusual for her age. At just 15 years old, she competed in her first World Cup race in Park City, Utah, immediately showcasing a mature, incredibly aggressive racing style and a complete lack of intimidation that belied her youthful years. However, the path to the absolute top was fraught with the typical, grueling growing pains of a teenage athlete navigating the exhausting, travel-heavy European circuit. She faced fierce, uncompromising competition from seasoned veterans who had spent decades mastering the alpine environment, and she had to rapidly adapt to the unforgiving, highly technical nature of World Cup courses. In 2002, she suffered a significant knee injury that required surgical intervention, a devastating physical setback that could have easily derailed the career of a lesser, less focused athlete. Instead, it became a defining moment of profound mental fortitude. She used the long rehabilitation period to study race tactics obsessively, analyze video footage of her rivals, and strengthen her psychological resolve, returning to the snow with a much deeper, more sophisticated understanding of her craft. The true breakthrough arrived in the winter of 2004 at the legendary Lake Louise course in Canada, a venue globally known and feared for its extreme speed, massive vertical drop, and highly technical demands. She claimed her first World Cup victory in the downhill event, announcing her official arrival as a genuine, undeniable threat to the established European dominance of the sport. This monumental victory was the catalyst for a period of unprecedented, sustained success. She consistently podiumed in speed events, brilliantly combining raw, explosive power with a surprisingly refined, precise technical ability in the supergiant slalom. The 2006 Winter Olympics in Turin served as her grand coming-out party on the global sporting stage. Although she narrowly missed the podium in the downhill, finishing a heartbreaking fourth, her aggressive, high-risk runs captured the imagination of the international sporting world. She was no longer just a promising American skier, she was a future champion destined for greatness. The following season, she shattered the glass ceiling by becoming the first American woman in nearly 30 years to win the overall World Cup Crystal Globe, a monumental achievement that permanently cemented her status as the best all-around skier on the planet. The 2010 Winter Olympics in Vancouver represented the absolute zenith of her athletic prime and the peak of her global fame. Arriving in Canada as the heavy favorite and the most recognizable, highly marketed face of the American team, the psychological pressure was absolutely suffocating. The media scrutiny was intense and often invasive, fueled by her high-profile personal life, her outspoken confidence, and her unapologetic personality, which frequently clashed with the more reserved, traditional culture of European alpine skiing. Despite the massive distractions and a fierce, highly publicized rivalry with her German counterpart Maria Höfel-Riesch, she delivered flawlessly when it mattered most. In the downhill event, she skied with a perfect, aggressive precision, claiming the Olympic gold medal and fulfilling the destiny that had been predicted for her since childhood. She added a bronze medal in the supergiant slalom, completing a spectacular, highly decorated Olympic performance. However, the aftermath of the Games was marred by intense personal turmoil, including the highly publicized and painful annulment of her marriage to fellow skier Todd Vonn, a difficult period that tested her emotional resilience and forced her to rebuild her personal life and identity away from the harsh glare of the international cameras. Following the Vancouver Games, she entered a phase of absolute, terrifying dominance that is rarely seen in the history of alpine skiing. She legally changed her surname to Vonn, solidifying her global brand identity, and went on an absolute tear across the World Cup circuit. She won multiple discipline titles and overall Crystal Globes, setting records for the most World Cup victories by an American athlete in any winter sport. Her intense rivalry with Maria Höfel-Riesch pushed both athletes to new, unprecedented heights, creating some of the most thrilling, edge-of-your-seat finishes in the history of the sport. But the physical toll of skiing at such an aggressive, high-risk level was rapidly accumulating beneath the surface. In early 2013, while training on the treacherous slopes of Cortina d'Ampezzo, Italy, disaster struck. She suffered a catastrophic, career-threatening knee injury, tearing her anterior cruciate ligament and meniscus, and severely damaging her medial collateral ligament. The horrific injury not only ended her current season, but forced her to miss the 2014 Winter Olympics in Sochi, a devastating blow that left her heartbroken, frustrated, and deeply questioning her future in the sport she loved. The rehabilitation process was agonizing, requiring multiple complex surgeries and months of grueling, painful physical therapy. True to her fiercely competitive nature, she absolutely refused to let the devastating injury define the end of her career. She returned to the World Cup circuit in the latter part of the 2013 season, showing brilliant flashes of her former, dominant self. The true, undeniable confirmation of her physical resurrection came in March 2015, on the legendary Birds of Prey course in Vail, Colorado. In front of a roaring, deeply emotional home crowd, she won the downhill event, securing her first victory since the devastating injury in Italy. This triumphant return was followed by an emotional, hard-fought gold medal in the downhill at the World Championships in Beaver Creek, proving to the world that she was still the undisputed queen of the speed events. With her physical health restored and her confidence fully returned, she set her sights on the ultimate individual record in alpine skiing history. The 86 World Cup victories held by the legendary, untouchable Swedish skier Ingemar Stenmark. At the time, many experts and historians believed the record was completely untouchable, a relic of a different, more forgiving era in the sport. But she approached the chase with methodical, scientific precision, winning race after race, inching closer to the mythical number with every single podium finish. The pursuit of the all-time record became a massive global narrative, drawing intense attention from mainstream sports media far beyond the traditional, niche skiing audience. In January 2017, she finally reached the monumental milestone, tying and then breaking the record for the most World Cup downhill victories by a woman, and moving into second place on the all-time list behind Stenmark. The achievement was a breathtaking testament to her unparalleled longevity and her incredible ability to adapt her technique and training as her body aged and evolved. She continued to compete at the highest, most brutal level, leading into the 2018 Winter Olympics in Pyeongchang, South Korea. Despite battling severe, chronic knee pain and requiring multiple medical injections just to be able to stand and compete, she managed to secure a gritty, hard-fought bronze medal in the downhill, a podium finish that showcased her enduring champion's heart and absolute refusal to yield. The physical deterioration of her knees, however, was becoming impossible to ignore, and the daily pain was a constant, stark reminder of the immense physical sacrifices she had made over her long career. The final, emotional chapter of her legendary racing career was written in March 2019 at the World Cup Finals in Soldeu, Andorra. Knowing deep down that her body could no longer safely withstand the brutal, high-impact demands of World Cup downhill skiing, she made the incredibly difficult decision to retire from the sport. Her final race was a supergiant slalom, a fitting, high-speed end for a woman who had conquered every type of speed event on the circuit. She crossed the finish line, looked up at the giant scoreboard, and realized she had secured a podium finish in her very last World Cup race. The emotional release was immediate and palpable. She broke down in tears, surrounded by her family, her lifelong coaches, and her fiercest rivals, who had all gathered to pay their deepest respects to a true, living legend. Her retirement marked the definitive end of an era for American alpine skiing. She left the sport with 82 World Cup victories, 4 overall World Cup titles, an Olympic gold medal, and 5 World Championship gold medals, establishing a staggering legacy that will likely never be surpassed by any other American skier. Stepping away from the highly structured competitive circuit did not mean stepping away from the public eye or from her relentless, driving ambition to succeed in new arenas. She seamlessly transitioned into a multifaceted, highly successful career as a businesswoman, entrepreneur, and prominent media personality. She leveraged her massive global fame to build a robust, diverse portfolio of endorsements and business ventures, consistently ranking as one of the highest-paid female athletes in the world. She launched her own clothing line, partnered with top-tier luxury brands, and became a highly influential figure in the fashion, beauty, and lifestyle sectors. Beyond the business world, she pursued new, demanding passions with the exact same obsessive dedication she had always applied to skiing. She took up competitive golf, quickly rising through the amateur ranks, and even competing in high-profile professional amateur tournaments against seasoned professionals. She also earned her private pilot license, taking to the skies with the same fearlessness, focus, and mechanical aptitude she once applied to navigating the Alpine slopes. Furthermore, she remained deeply committed to philanthropy through the Lindsey Vonn Foundation, which actively supports youth sports, educational initiatives, and empowerment programs for young girls around the world. Just when the global sporting world believed her highly competitive days were permanently behind her, she shocked everyone by officially announcing her intention to return to elite alpine skiing in 2024. At an age when almost all athletes have long since retired and transitioned to broadcasting, coaching, or completely normal lives, she began training for a highly improbable comeback, targeting the most dangerous downhill and supergiant slalom events on the calendar. The announcement was met with widespread skepticism and concern, with many medical experts and pundits questioning whether her heavily reconstructed knees could possibly handle the immense, crushing forces of World Cup racing again. Yet, She approached the comeback with a meticulous, highly science-backed training regimen, working with a specialized team of biomechanics experts and physical therapists to optimize her conditioning and minimize the risk of further injury. Her return to the start gate was a powerful, inspiring statement about the absolute limits of human potential and the complete refusal to accept the conventional, biological boundaries of age and physical decline. It was not just a quest for more medals or records, it was a profound, deeply personal challenge to see if she could defy the odds and conquer the mountain one last time. The legacy of Lindsey Vonn extends far, far beyond her staggering collection of medals, trophies, and statistical records. She fundamentally and permanently transformed the landscape of alpine skiing, bringing a level of mainstream visibility, commercial appeal, and cultural relevance to the sport that it had never previously experienced in its history. She was a true pioneer in athlete empowerment, using her massive platform to advocate for better conditions, fairer scheduling, and greater respect for the physical and mental health of skiers from the governing bodies. She broke the outdated mold of the traditional, quiet, compliant alpine athlete, presenting herself to the world as a confident, outspoken, and fiercely independent woman who absolutely refused to be constrained by the expectations or traditions of others. Her direct influence on the next generation of American skiers is immeasurable and deeply profound. Young athletes who grew up watching her dominate the World Cup circuit now look at her not just as a distant, untouchable icon, but as a tangible, achievable blueprint for what is possible with hard work, unwavering belief, and an unbreakable spirit. In the grand, sweeping tapestry of sporting history, very few figures shine as brightly, as fiercely, or as enduringly as Lindsey Vonn. She was the absolute embodiment of the alpine spirit, a true warrior who embraced the danger, the speed, and the breathtaking beauty of her sport with equal, uncompromising passion. Her life on the slopes was a continuous, brutal battle against gravity, against her fiercest rivals, and ultimately, against her own physical limitations and the aging process. She fell, she broke, she bled, but she always, without exception, got back up and skied harder. From the icy, unforgiving, narrow hills of Buck Hill to the glittering, highest podiums of the Olympic Games, her journey is a masterpiece of athletic achievement and profound human resilience. She did not just ski down the mountain, she completely conquered it, leaving an indelible, permanent mark on the snow and an eternal legacy in the hearts of fans worldwide. Her incredible story is a timeless, powerful reminder that true greatness is not merely about the victories we achieve or the records we break, but about the immense courage we show when the slope gets steep, the pain sets in, and the finish line seems impossibly far away.